the problem currently now is what we call Afrophobia, racism, double standard, unequal treatment, biased judgments. They took away our culture, they took away our freedom, and now targeting, looking after our children is not going to be acceptable. The mommy was even knelt down begging
At the school.
at the school, like an African parent, that I'm sorry, I'm sorry. They took away their children. They want to take a baby, it's okay, but give mom a sleeping bag to sleep rough on the street.
Hello and welcome to 91 Podcast, the show where we dig deep into people's passions to hope to inspire, encourage, and motivate you. On today's episode, we have a man who is doing great things in the community. He's a community advocate and he's the winner of the Outstanding Social Care Award from the prestigious National BAME Health and Social Care 2023. And he's also the CEO of Save the Woman, an organization doing great things in the community here. He's none other than Mr. Olalekan Odedeyi. Welcome, sir. It's great to have you in our studio today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here as well.
So tell me, sir, your organization is called Save the Woman. Why are you, as a man, interested in saving the woman?
That's a very good, interesting question. I usually say that as well on many occasions. Basically, Save the Man was developed due to my interest in Millennium Development Goals 3, now called Sustainable Development Goals, which aims to promote gender equality and empower women. And that's give me keen interest, to go into that. And as a community advocate, people's advocate, social entrepreneur, I have passion in fairness, equity, gender equality, and women empowerment. So that makes me to really start that vision. And it started back in Nigeria when we go to prisons to empower women in the prison because of their disadvantage being in prison or serving a prison term. And they lost everything, being the minority in the prison. They lost their relationship, they lost their kids to state government, and it's becoming a challenging. So we don't want them to commit offense or your friend again. So that's why we go into that. And there's a saying, empower a woman is empower a nation. So that's the beginning.
When you were working in prisons in Nigeria, what's it like?
Oh, just generally their health, there's health inequality, when they want, we have women with kids, with pregnancy.
Inside the prison?
Though there's a facility to look after them, but it might not be as much as they would have expected when they're outside the prison. So behind the back door, there are lots that's happening, but we try as much as possible to improve their life. That's why we go there. Yeah.
So that's your work in Nigeria. What's your work here? What does Save the Woman do here in the UK?
Coming to the UK, we basically focus on race inequality. We provide advocacy, training, support to families, to diverse community. Most recently, we are focusing on advocacy for families, especially people that have issue around child protection and safeguarding, because it could be strenuous, challenging. It's a difficult time for them. They need somebody, to go through this journey with them. They might not have that basic understanding, and we support family to work effectively with the professionals, because when it's happened, you just get lost, you don't know. And that's some terminology the professional might be using. You don't know how to do it, and that way of communicating, use of language, it's give some concern. So, and if there's any abuse of human rights or deprivation of family lifetime, so we advocate for them.
You mentioned issues about, child protection and safeguarding. For those who might not understand what those terms mean, what does that mean?
Basically, there's United Nations Convention that protect the rights of every child. And when we talk about child below 18 years old, in the same way in United Kingdom, there's Act 1989 and 2004 that give a duty to the local authority, to the professionals, to even family as well, to safeguard a child and promote their well-being. So that's all about. So if there is concern that the child might likely be exposed to harm or injury
In their own home?
It might not even be in their own home again. It might be generally in the community, just going to the shopping mall. You see a child being neglected, or you see a child being unattended to, or you at home, there's a kind of incident. In fact, if there's a domestic incident between the partner and they have kids, it's a concern. And also from school, there might be some concern. So, but everything will not go to child protection straight away. There's a way they assess it. There might be some that just need this support service. We call it early help intervention. But if it go beyond the threshold, then they refer it to social care, and that is where social care will come in. And once they come in, there's something we call a strategy meeting where all professional comes together, including a health professional, the police, the social care. They will think about the health, developmental well-being of that child. Is there any gap compared to other children of that same age? That's where they will start. And it's at that meeting they have to make a decision whether to close the case if there's no concern, or to investigate if there's a concern.
And they can even go as
That
far
is
as
where
taking a child, isn't it?
definitely. That is when child protection investigation will come in. Some they will step it down to child in need. Oh, there might be some gaps that we need to support. Let's know this family, and that's Section 17 assessment. But some family will not know whether it is mandatory or voluntary. Which is voluntary, you have to consent if there's no need. But they might challenge you and ask you, what support are you going to provide? So if you decline, the professional have to use that judgment. If we accepted that it's not consented to this, but how would that impact on that child? So if there's going to be a concern, they can escalate it to child protection investigation, which is section 47.
I've seen a lot of things online, people talking about how it's almost like the government focuses more on children from African backgrounds in the UK and they are more likely to be taken from their families. Is this true? Are there any statistics to prove this, or is it just hearsay?
Oh, that's a very good question. Like I've said, there's a policy, there's a process, there's a procedures. Uh, Safeguarding is a responsibility of everybody, not to discriminate. But unfortunately, from some of the case work we've handled, we've seen some element of double standard, unequal treatment, biased judgment, and the problem currently now is what we call Afrophobia, racism. It's kind of targeting more of African minority ethnic community. However, there's a research that says this. It is 4 times more likely to take African children into care compared to white British, and 3 times more likely compared to other ethnic minority. So that's a big question. So as far as saved one is concerned, since 2019, we've been very, very concerned about that statistics, and we have already launched a campaign, independent investigation into children's services, to let us see why there's overrepresentation of African children, and why and what are the barriers from African parents to foster, if at all there's a need to safeguard a child. If there's a concern, then that child should go to African family where their culture will be protected, their way of life will be valued, their values will be appreciated, not just lost to the system. Because there's a research where his child in care says being in care is bad, but being black in care is twice as bad because I don't belong to anywhere. And there's also a report that says black kids are being racist against in the social care system. And there's also research that says there's over-reporting of black African families. So there are a lot of questions needs to be answered by the system, and most of the local authority are running away from doing that. There's a good news. Just recently, government, United Kingdom, at the Parliament, they've made inquiry. They initiated an inquiry to look into that and to see if, because over 20 local authority are bankrupted now because of the spending on children's social care. So they want to know on what account. If they are spending so much money and the impact is not fair, because there's a expectation, according to research, taking children into care should be the last resort. So, what support are you providing to
From
families?
what you said, why are they taking African children? Are we no longer good enough to raise our own children?
Yeah, that's what I want to say. I've mentioned it earlier, and I would like to point to one of the case study that we had, whereby there's a report from school that a child reported to teaching assistant that she was being touched at the private part by white female male child
In school?
in school at school, and the teacher just said, "Oh, why can't you tell me before?" I said the boy said if she say anything, they're going to tell the dad, and he's going to be in trouble. The teacher did nothing like that. There's no reporting of that. They just close the case. But when the little girl, innocent child, go back to the teacher that, oh, I remember my brother also touched me at home. That was when it became a concern to that school. They make a referral to the local authority. And in the report, they said a child is close sexually abused at home. And because parents do not know how to manage that, so they go to school because that was how social care supposed to intervene to support, but they didn't look into the matter. They went into the family, take away the kids, even the girl and the two brothers. So
They took away all the
all
children.
the children of the black family. So when the parents go to school, why do you kidnap our children? That's the word they used, and the school was so furious about that word. So they make another report that they were aggressive. In fact, there's some occasion they come late to pick the kids. They do this, and the worst part of it, the mom was heavily pregnant at that time, and as soon as she had the baby, they took away the little baby as
They
well.
took away the newborn baby.
And yeah, she had the baby C-section. They took away. And there's another case recently. The first case that we made that made us to start this work. It was a school that they said a child reported, "Mommy beat me last night at home." Now the teacher report they made a referral. It's a safeguarding policy, isn't it? Could you believe it? It was the assistant head teacher of that school that made referral, fostered that child with a partner.
They took the child. The head teacher took the child.
Assistant head teacher was the one the social care give that child to foster them. That is conflict of interest, but nobody listening to that. It cost me to resign as a parent governor of that school because I spoke up for that, and they asked me to keep quiet on that matter because I'm a governor of that school. I said that is ridiculous. I have a lot of caps on my head. A family that was reported, don't you think there's a malicious referral out there? So we had to advocate for that family. In
What
fact,
happened?
it make us to do some demonstration, and people don't like it. And before we know, that's make us to also go through complaint procedure. Nothing happened, and that's now give us our understanding that you can't change the system. You only need to change the way you want life to be. So that's make us to come up with a parenting program, Afrocentric work, parent program to rather equip family, give them the skills, knowledge on how to manage their home because these children are innocently saying things out there without knowing that people that are watching out for them. They took away our culture, they took away our freedom, and now targeting, looking after our children is not going to be acceptable.
Why is it that, okay, in Nigeria, we're able to take care of our children? When we bring our children here, there's so many eyes on us. They say we're not treating our children the right way. Is it that we as Africans don't know how to parent?
That is why sometimes when there's a supremacy, some believe they belittle you, they belittle the way you do things, your thinking. So that's why we let people know the course is about Eurocentric, Afrocentric, to let the children know. In fact, some children are brought here newly and they are still struggling with the system to find their way around. Being bullied at school, being discriminated at school, and they were so worried, concerned. Instead of them to speak out to parents, probably parents didn't pay attention to them, and the child go outside seeking attention. Out of that, took advantage of that. That's why we said it is high time we need to relearn and unlearn. There are things we think it is acceptable where we come from. It might not be acceptable here. So we should not let that system to take that advantage of that, because there are a lot of worse things that is happening out there. Nobody is looking into that. You see a lot of them on the streets. They still go back home with their kids. And there are conditions where the children's social care can get involved. Neglect, abuse, parenting absence, uh, disabilities, and so on like that. But from the statistics, it is neglect or abuse that took the higher percentage, over 60% of that. So their interpretation of neglect or abuse, that's what we need to look at.
Can you please explain that a bit better? Neglect and abuse. Just examples of what it may look like to them.
Yeah, basically, if your there's a case that they said they took away a child because of wrong diagnosis. The white British says that child look malnourished, and until they get a second opinion that, oh, African child with a parents of background like this, the earth inequality, the issues around this.
Look malnourished how? Is it that the child was too skinny?
If it's too, they might say it's too obese. They
the
might
child
say,
is too obese.
yeah,
That's why they look malnourished.
yeah, no, they believe that you didn't pay attention to what they eat. You know what I mean? You didn't pay attention to what they eat, or probably, uh, if it happened like this, they will look at their health services. Did you miss an appointment? If you miss appointment, that's a neglect. If they go to school late, that's a neglect. So all these things needs to pay attention to. In fact, when you come newly, you have to register them for GP, register them for dentists, eye checks. All these things is what they are going to assess if anything happen. And like a parent I told you about, the teacher said they were picking the children late. There's a case from Edinburgh. The mommy was even knelt down begging
At the school.
at the school, like an African parent, that I'm sorry. They took away their children. And some people say maybe it has been happening before, but on many occasions,
How many times was the child late? How many times?
that is why we are calling for independent investigations of these cases. There's a parent. She come newly to this country in January 2023. In July, she had no, yeah, she was hospitalized because she was heavily pregnant. She was only 1 year. In while they're having conversation with the earth visitor or midwife, I mean, probably she said, oh, she's worried about finances, this, that. If somebody worried about finances, you're supposed to provide support. But guess what? The social worker report asks the legal team of that council, please, can you tell me which legislation can we use to remove this child?
Because the woman didn't have enough money, they wanted to take her child. Did they succeed in taking her child?
Now, when they do that, it was that time the pastor called me. I said, this is what's happening. I said, don't worry. Let's see what happens. So the day they want to discharge, they will intentionally want them to discharge that child for them to take that child. But when I was there, I was able to question them. Can you know what happened? I asked simple question. Could you please tell me how long you've been working as a social worker? When did you become qualified? She's still a student,
But she wants to take somebody.
not qualified yet. So when I challenged them that, what support have you provided? Nothing. In fact, the police team that were there were shocked the way we asked that question. And we got that child. Go home. After the case closed, we always encourage parents to do some things. Ask for subject access request of every information, correspondence, internal message shared. When we get that document, it was shocking. They said they asked charities for support, but they said because she has no recourse to public fund, they could not support her. However, they've asked them to source for sleeping bag. Do you know what they call sleeping bag? They want to take a baby, it's okay. But give mom a sleeping bag to sleep rough on the street.
I don't understand. They want to take the newborn baby, and the woman has asked for help with funds. They want to take her newborn baby and give her a sleeping bag.
Because she cannot care for that child. They don't want that child to suffer. They don't want that child to be neglected, to be harmed.
It's not better for the child to be with its mother, a
That,
newborn baby.
that is their whole mentality. But if it is other people, they might have provided with support. In fact, we see a case, they are drug addicts. They provided them with about £10,000 fund to refurbish the house, to clean up the mess, the odor. But when it is you,
Drug addicts.
yeah, you don't get that same support. And now they were crying as a council that the children's social care is costing them so much money. £63,000
Maybe that's because they're giving £10,000 to drug addicts.
per one child. So we were asking them now, if there's nothing behind this, go for independent investigation, support the call. We've been doing this demonstration campaign for this for the first 4 years now. In fact, the local authority we started with, they said, when I asked them question just last month, they said they were reduced their cost now. It's only costing them £33,000 per week.
Per week.
Yeah. But now, according to research, it is the children in care in 2021 is about 80,850. And there's a research that said by 2025, it will be 100,000 children.
100,000 children
So,
taken
and
away from their home.
yeah, and if African is 4 times more likely, we need to pay attention. Can I tell you, a child that goes to care, what's their chances of life? There's a this that said in 2018-2019, 13% of pupils were looked after continuously for 12 months or more entered higher education compared to 43% of children that doesn't go into care. So there's a small chances for them to go to higher education. And it says people who have spent the time in the local authority care, they face many and significant barrier to entering and succeeding in higher education. Education community foster care is all about the money. That's what they said. Children in care, 52% more likely to be hospitalized than those who have no contact with care. Children in care more likely to die earlier than those who did not go to care. So why is it now African children are overrepresented in care system? Not even that, destroying the generations to come is a matter of concern, and that's why we say it's a genocide happening. This is the real pandemic, and there's need for every community to rise up.
Not many people are talking about. Is it that we're not aware?
Let me give a thanks to Mr. Kuti Oluomo of the Nigerian in UK community, because since we get in contact with them, they have been helping so much in raising this awareness, because a lot of family are not aware. But there are other family that are aware, but they choose to remain silent because it's not happening to them. It's unfortunate. Not until it happens to people get to their doorstep before they see the reality. In fact, in the last 1 to 2 months now, we've supported more than 10, 12 medical doctors, GP, African families. They are the one they are targeting now. And they come over here to help the health sector to grow, to care for their people, but they are losing their own children into care system. Majority of them, they are even silent because they don't want the system to look at them as if they are part of people campaigning for this to stop. They don't want us to talk about bias system. They don't want to talk about e-treatment. They don't want to talk about Afrophobia racism. And not only that, they forgot to know that there are lots of consequences of this if you have a contact with social care.
So what are the consequences of a family having contact with social care?
Just on the 4th of December, Stella, one of the MP, she expressed a concern. about someone forcefully or maliciously reported her to social care with intention of taking away her children. She was able to clear that case, but she made a further statement to BBC Women Hour that the record of having children's social care record is a concern to her. Number one, when our children want to go to a new school, they start asking them, have you had a social worker before? When they want to go to hospital, have you had a social worker? She said this is causing a distress to her. That is to her. But to our own African, like a migrant, it's more than that. That's the only thing that happens to her. Because of that, she said she's going to make amendments bill for victim record to be cleared off because she knows the implication. But for African migrant community, it's more than that. Number one, we got a message from there's a publication from Home Office say we work closely with our contractors, the NHS, local authority, and non-governmental organizations to operate a safeguarding hub. What does that mean? There's what we call working agreement to working together 2015 is a student heart 2015 that they have to share the information. One of our clients in February, our wife, his wife, change visa from student dependent to health and social care visa. She got that visa. In May, the husband wanted to change to be dependent. When he submitted application, Home Office sent message to him. We saw you had a contact with Police Scotland and asked to do with matter with student social care. Because of this, we don't know whether it is ongoing or concluded. It's still on the record of the police. We cannot treat your application. We will put it on hold. In the next 6 months, we will go and check again. That 6 months, that man will get stuck. Even if he doesn't like the job he's doing, he has to stay there because his application is inside. He's not having his application treated. He cannot change the job. Not only that, it's traumatic experience. And to you look for another job is a difficult thing. Now we have to go through that process for him. We're able to get through this police Scotland. We're able to see what action has been taken. Guess what happened? They said they left a child unattended, unsupervised at home for a couple of minutes or so like that. Thank God.
That's why.
Yeah, because if you leave a child at home with no supervision, anything can happen to that child. It's a safeguarding concern. But because it happens like that, it's in his record. So that's it. Not only that, some of the people they made referral to NMC and they put them on, they investigate. Some people they refer to DBS. Some people they refer to PVG. Because once it happens, social care get involved. They have to make a report to what we call local authority designated officer, LADO. LADO team, if anything happen around children harm or safeguard harm or safeguarding concern, and that adult who is alleged to be perpetrator is working in children adult social care, they have to make sure they report to their employer, and the employer needs to make a decision whether they are fit. And then one of the employers said recently, if you have been found guilty of that, or you have been prosecuted, or you have been cautioned, or you have been go through that process, that means you didn't protect the, you are not fit of a standard expectation. So you might lose your job after that. So a lot is happening. If you commit a crime that has nothing to do with a child, you don't have a child, or as a child does not witness that, then you can bear the consequence just yourself. But anything that has to do with involvement of a child, then it's a safeguarding concern.
I think that obviously there's a clash between the way we bring up our children as Africans and the way children are brought up here in the UK. What are those conflicts? What are those differences? Which they may see as safeguarding concerns, but we may see it as just bringing up our children normally.
Yeah,
Is
one
it
of
just something like maybe spanking?
the one thing is the major one is in Scotland, spanking, any form of corporal punishment using instrument is illegal since 2020. From March 26, 2022, it is illegal in Wales. In England, April, they went to court to make it illegal, but the court said no. Parents should be able to give that right to discipline a child, to use their judgment. But that discipline has to be a reasonable discipline because it is somebody that will make a decision if that is reasonable or not. That's where there's a bias in terms of it. For instance, most of the cases is I'm scared, I'm worried, and from there they had some question. And if care is not taken, that professional might have some leading questions, and they would tell you if you did something naughty, how did they correct you? What did they do?
Could those be like children in school telling teachers, I'm scared, I'm worried about my mom or my dad? And so teacher then asks the children, what are your parents doing at home?
That could be, but on many occasions as well, they can just see a child look moody. You know what I mean? And everybody can be sad at any point, but might even be a sort of bullying from peers. And before you know, the question they might ask might not contradict or affect the situation. And use of our language. If you ordinarily said, stay away from there, otherwise I'll beat you. That does not mean you have beaten that child. But the word beating,
If anybody hears it,
if anybody, is alarming.
you want to be
Yeah,
the child,
it's
you're
a
abusing
concern.
the child.
Yeah. And most people use something now. If you don't behave yourself, I will send you back home. They use it, they see it as a threatening. And you see some
To
you
abandon
see,
the child
we see
by
some
taking them
report. We see some
somewhere.
report now that they said they were always threatening that child. In fact, there's a case recently. Not recently, we've got issued them back. You had the mom, that person adopted a niece to this country. And they said there's a concern in school of safeguarding concern. They took away our own biological child because once it affects one child and in that household, they have to protect all of the children. That's the law. Now, not only that, when that happened, they want to do DNA, whether they are related with that adopted child. They have to do DNA for that their own biological again. How? That is why a research said social care are too quick to wade in. They are fond of investigating rather than supporting family. In fact, Isabel Troller, the chief social worker for England, she said, too many children are wrongly taken into care. So if all these reports are coming out and the key stakeholders are folding hands, not doing something, it's a matter of questioning the genuineness or the reason behind that policy. Because if there's a policy, somebody should be able to hold that people implementing it accountable. How it's being used, fairly handling. In fact, there's a case recently, the chief crown prosecutor knew there's a treatment, there's a kind of disproportionate of reporting our people or even prosecuting our people compare. But they keep covering up. And that's institutional racism. And a lot of families are under pressure now. That's why we are calling for support to families.
I think next question I need to ask you now is what can we do as parents? As African immigrants in the UK, what can we do to protect our children and make sure that social workers never get involved with our children?
That is why we are coming out and campaign that we need to build the community for ourselves. It takes a village to raise a child. That community spirit we have back home, let's just continue here. Because isolating ourselves is affecting us. And we need to start imparting knowledge, building skills in our children, connecting with them emotionally. Let them have our home as a safe heaven so that they'll be able to speak up. If they are being concerned at school, They will speak up to you at home. You'll be able to do something on time. Because if you don't pay attention to your kids, you don't prioritize them, you are losing them. And that's why we come with that program, Afro-centric parenting work. We teach people how they need to start telling their kids family values, how to handle things, how to have a good communication. And we need to also look after ourselves, self care. A lot of people have under pressure, stress,
Financial pressure also.
yeah, marital issues that they forgot to look after themselves. And not only that, the little they are earning here, they are probably back home to support many people. You can't help everybody, but you can do as much as you can, but don't do it to the extent of neglecting of.
So what are the things that we can do? You just give us a sneak peek into the, Afro parenting. What are a few tips that you can give people?
One of the issues is also, again, in the morning, is the tension is so high. We see a family that dropping off a kid at school, maybe at that morning, a child refused to eat. You can only encourage them to eat because they will say you are forcefully feeding them. And if rather than shouting, screaming, sit them down, have a conversation with them. If they did something wrong, talk to them. Let them know why this is not good and why this is good. And one of the cases we have recently also, having a teenager in this country is becoming worried and challenging. We have to learn the skills of negotiating, dialogue. That spirit of you must do this, you have to do this might not work. You know, this is 21st century. The way you are brought up might not work. And a child had, might be different from one, definitely different from another child. Don't compare a child to the other. Treat them with respect. And one thing is this: when you're in Africa, somebody want to care for you, for instance, in hospital, you are sick, you are hospitalized. They have injection to inject you. They just say you need to get this injection, pam. But yeah, despite the fact they want to care for you, they still carry you along. They still ask you along. So those decisions you are making, engage your children, carry them along. In fact, some people they want to have a new relationship. They didn't let their kids know. And the children might be jealous. They might be worried. You have to have a new baby. You need to let them know. Because they might think that attention is not for them any longer. So even if you are struggling financially, let your children know. Because this country, there's what we call child benefits. Some of these kids, their parents give them that money. This is your money. Use whatever. Use it to buy whatever you want. And your own child go to school. You have no recourse to public fund. Let your children know what a no recourse to public fund means. Because if a peer said, "Oh, I just bought this new shoe. I buy your own. Where do you get it from? My money. Where do you get money from? Are you working? I'm not working. Government give us money." That child will now be having in the brain, "Oh, is this that wicked? Is this mommy wicked? Where's my own money?" So let them have that conversation. And if you lost your job, you let them know because there might be some changes in the house. You might need to adjust. You need to teach them. You need to carry them along and pay attention to them. That's where knife crime comes in. Peer pressure. A lot is happening out there. If you don't protect your home, it will be a matter of global national issue because you see young ones killing each other. And the rate is becoming so alarming and high. And when you go to prison, majority of children in prison are children going to care. So if you don't want your child to be a product of that system, which they also
Affects their
said
whole life.
it should be the last resort, then you need to pay attention. And if it happens, calm down, get the right support, look for help. You can't go through the journey all alone. Because there are times what you say is what they will use against you. And how you say it, sometimes and they ask you A, you are telling them B, C, D, Y, Z. Who is asking you that? There's a recent movie on Netflix, Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. I will encourage everyone to watch that movie. It's very
Sorry, say
educative.
the name
Very
again.
Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway is very uh, educative. That's eye opener of what is happening in Europe when it comes to child protection services. Having said that, there are good social workers out there. So don't use one experience to judge everybody.
Still prepare yourself. Yeah, and just give us a few steps to prepare yourself. Because people come here from Nigeria, they don't know. They don't know there's difference in how children are brought up and that they, stand a chance of getting their children taken away for things that they might not even see as.
Some people they will even want to go and pick their kids in school. You see them on phone 247.
So that's even a problem.
It's a problem. You don't allow. It's not allowed. You are not paying attention. There's a parent drop off a child at the other roadside, expecting that child to cross over
By themselves.
by themselves. What if there's an accident? So that is why you see them, you take them, drop them off, pick them up, and build a community. Help yourself as a family. Help yourself as a family and watch out as well. Be watchful. As Bible says, be watchful. Children are the heritage of the Lord. You have to show them the way of the Lord so that when they grow up, they won't depart away from it. But if you lose your child into care, that freedom, that opportunity is lost. We've seen a child within 2 weeks go into care, came back, said she doesn't believe in God any longer. And this is a child that is leading sermon, everything in church. And there's a child of 10 years old, came back, need vape. And mommy don't give him, you cause trouble. When did you start having vape? They gave me in care. And in recently in our area, more than 100 children are falling off in this class. And when they realized, they went to go and see what number of vape they are bringing to school, primary school children. When they collected it forensically, assessed and examined, there was element of drugs inside it. So if you are planning to migrate, don't come here and say, oh, I sold off everything to get a better life for my children. And you now brought those children here, you neglect them, you forget them. You are now chasing after something else. That's not acceptable. If you truly love them, then prioritize these children. Because there's a law to protect and safeguard these children to ensure their welfare, well-being is protected. But they won't get that same minimum standard of care the government is expecting to provide to them if they take them into care. You see the damage. The government created a policy, but even when they take them to where they think they are safe, they expose them to harm.
Wow. So this has been it's been a very deep conversation. It's sad what's going on, but I'm glad to know that there are organizations like yours that are there to help people, even when their children are taken into care. You know how to advocate for them and help bring those children back. So do you have any last words you want to say to Nigerians out there?
I will only say thank you for giving us this platform, and we want to appreciate everyone that has been of support since we started. It has not been easy. It's been challenging. We've got a lot of backlash, a lot of threats, a lot of ill treatment. Even we face it as well. I know what as a family I've also suffered because of this work we are doing, advocating for families. It's been tough, but we're glad that our work has been achieved, recognized, uh, making that impact to people's life, giving them joy, giving them that hope. Because once the children go into care, people think their life is completely ruined. No. And we always encourage you out there, don't blame yourself. We are all good parents. And we ask local authority, if you take these children thinking they are not safe, let us know the assessment you did, and what are the support plan you are putting in place you've taken, so that we will be able to work along with you, support parents, so that they will be able to have their children back safely. But if they insist not to give them back, you have a right to go back to court. We've been to court with families and we got the children back. We got about 52 children back. We've already stopped 104 children from going to care, and we've trained thousands of families. And our social media is there, especially our YouTube. We've put some free programs, free courses there, but there are some that you need to pay for. But if you reach out to us, definitely we will let you know more about that.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been amazing having you here today.
It's my pleasure.
So if you enjoyed that conversation and you were enlightened by it, don't forget to check out Save the Woman online. Follow them, learn more about what you can do to take care of your children here.
Tune in each week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review or comment.